Click, boom. What's going on, faithfuls? The Nothing But Niners crew is here, and we are ready. We are live, and we are back to bring you guys a look within, guys. This is the Week 6 Rams vs. 49ers discussion here. We're going to preview the game, but, normally we're going to do something a little different. Normally what we do is we start breaking down our opponent, the Niners, the strengths and weaknesses and all that, but we're not going to do that, man. We're not going to do that this time. What we're going to do here is we are just going to strictly talk about this team tonight. The Niners have a lot of problems. They have a ton going on. And before we can start discussing beating other teams, we have to fix the problems within first. So that's what tonight's show is going to be about. All right, guys, let's pop this graphic up here. Just really quick, guys. You see it up there, Facebook, Instagram, Snap, or Twitch. That is Nothing But Niners. You see the Snapchat and Twitter, Nothing But 9 ERS. The website is nothingbutniners.com. The email, nb9ers@nothingbutniners.com. You're already here on the YouTube page, so make sure you like and subscribe. If this is your first time here, this happens to come across your feed, make sure you hit that like, subscribe, and turn on those notifications. All right? That's going to do it. I'm the guy, 49ers Mike _NFL. Above me is my guy, NJ Niner fan 499. His name is also Tony. Over here is my guy, Nick, up in that corner, 49er Faithful 365. And over here, immediately to my left, which is really my right and home, so it's super weird, is my guy, Brian, ST8R_9R. Fellas, what's going on?
Oh, good. Let's go.
What's good? Top of the morning for you.
Let me tell you, as much as we do all this stuff, this never gets like normal in my brain. I don't know. My brother used to play a video game inverted. Everything was left and right. It was like I knew from that moment on, like, he's going to be in the military because that's a special kind of crazy.
It's like with flight simulators and stuff. It's all kind of backwards.
That's what it was. It was some kind of pilot thing, and I never understood it. He got it like it was nothing, and I would pick up a remote, get pissed off, and throw it down and walk away. So God bless anybody who can do that stuff on a regular. All right, guys. So quick news. Nick has some injury news, right? Let's talk about it really quick. It's not anything that's urgent or he did it again. It's not anything urgent or that's like breaking news or anything like that. But there was just some 49ers related injury news. No roster moves. No one else has been signed. No one else has been cut or anything like that yet. I'm saying yet. Just keep that in mind. But nothing has happened as of right now. But Nick, what's the injury update you got for us?
Yeah, I mean, it looks to be today. There was a tweet that went out about practice, and it looked to be that Jeff Wilson Jr. was not practicing. He was on the sideline looking to he was working something out. Not sure what it was. It hasn't been reported what the injury is or what he's working on to rehab. But it said that if he doesn't, that they'll keep us notified, I guess, because if he can't go, look for JaMycal Hasty to get some more touches this week.
Ooh, JaMycal Hasty gets 2 touches instead of none. Wow. Okay. Well, no, we do want this guy healthy. We want to see him working everything out. So hopefully it's nothing major. It's something minor, and we'll go from there. All right, guys. Anything else before we jump into the topics? Tony, good?
No, good.
Brian,
all good here.
Oh, he's dropping it like it's hot. Okay, I see you. Drop it like it's hot. All right, guys. So let's start with the quarterback position, man. This team is going through a lot right now. Jimmy Garoppolo did not look like he was 100% last week. Some people were saying that he was. Kyle Shanahan kind of doubled down on it in his presser from yesterday, saying that, and if it was a different situation, I told you guys already, he would have stayed in that game. So it seemed like it wasn't a health thing. Guys, what is wrong with our quarterback position, and who should be the backup? We're going to talk about all this. Let's start with Brian, and then we'll go to Tony, and then we'll end with Nick on that.
So as far as the quarterback position goes, obviously I think that this is the week that Jimmy should have come back, not last week. So I have no problems with him getting out there. Sounds like he's full go at practice. As far as his backup, I revert back to the same thing I've been saying, since we started playing our backups, is that, Nick won that job through training camp. Nick won that job through the first several games of the season. And just because CJ came out and had a great half, the second half that he played there, I don't see it's a reason that they should have benched Mullins. I know that Kyle's going to do what he wants to do. If you want my opinion, I think that Mullins starts or is the backup, but I foresee that Kyle will go with CJ.
I'm going to give it to Tony too to answer the same questions. I want to just put a little bit of something on what you said. Maybe it'll give Tony something else to speak on. But Kyle Shanahan said that, when CJ lost that job, he said he never really got a chance to go back and assess the position. Now, you can call it a cop-out or what, but he basically said that Mullins never did anything to lose that job, and so they just never looked back because he was confident in both of those guys. So, Tony, when you hear that, thank you. When you hear that, how does that make you think about Kyle's decision-making with the backup position? And obviously, what are your thoughts on Jimmy Garoppolo going forward?
I'm not too sure what to think about what he's thinking because he said all week that Jimmy was good in practice, or blah, blah, blah. He got in the game and you saw a different Jimmy. I mean, it's different when you're standing there with a helmet, shirt, and shorts, throwing a ball with no pressure in your face to when you're in game action and there's live bullets coming at you. So, my opinion, if I would physically have to see Jimmy like be put through intense drills to test that foot out, to test that ankle out, and like move the pocket drills, have him drop back, shuffle, slide, right, left. And even that's really not a true test because you're not facing an opponent. So, I mean, in my opinion, they have to be 100% guaranteed that Jimmy's 100% healthy to play this game because I think it's a bad move to even put him on the field with the struggles of our offensive line, with Aaron Donald and that defensive line, the way they're playing. So, I'm guessing from what I just saw on Twitter, it was about an hour and a half ago that they posted it, that Jimmy's starting. So it better be a short leash because if that foot acts up and you start seeing balls like, I don't even know, like duck hunt, you're shooting a duck down or something, like he's got to come out because they have no chance if he's going to start throwing a ball like that. I'm sorry. He's only going to hurt himself and he's only going to hurt that team. And in my opinion, I think they should go with Nick Mullins. I understand, CJ drove the team down the field versus Philly, but at that point in the game, they were kind of playing like a bend, don't break, prevent defense, everything underneath. It was all check downs. He moved the ball down the field. They got into the end zone. But I just feel, and you saw versus Miami, CJ was starting to hold on to the ball again. So that's his big flaw when he was the starter before Jimmy came here. So he's kind of reverting back to his old ways. I mean, his arm does look a little stronger, but he can't be holding on the ball that long, especially in this timing offense. So I would go Nick too. Personally, I would start Nick this game unless they are 100% positive that ankle is ready to go.
All right, so I'm going to give it to Nick, but I'm going to piggyback on what Tony said again, give you something else to respond to so we're not all just answering the very same question. Tony said something very interesting. He said, I would probably start with Nick. So he believes Nick should be the backup quarterback over CJ Beathard, right? And then here's the question for you, Nick. If you do that, if you do start Beathard or Nick, does that mean that you're keeping three quarterbacks up because Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be your number 2 in the game? How do you play that out? Also, the other thing I want to give you to think about is, have we done a show since Quan Alexander's injury? I honestly don't remember because I don't think we mentioned at the top of the show, and I don't know if we didn't discuss it previously. We probably should get some more information on that. And if we didn't do it, I'll look it up while you're talking.
I think we talked about it on Tuesday, but I'm not sure. No, because it came out Wednesday. So it came out on Wednesday's report, I believe. So I don't think we talked about it. But yeah, it was – I don't even think they still came out. Did they come out and say the severity of it? Because I know at first they mentioned that he had a high ankle sprain, but they were waiting to see what the severity was. But it sounds like he's not going to play, obviously. But is it an IR trip?
I saw something that said 4 to 6 weeks.
Well, that's what they said about Jimmy.
That was speculation with the high ankle sprain, but they didn't know what the severity was of the strain or of the sprain. Sorry, not strain.
Yeah, so I just checked. I don't see any updates since then. It's still the high ankle sprain, but we don't know the severity, so we don't know how long he's going to be out, if out at all. So,
yeah. So, moving on to Jimmy Garoppolo. I understand where Tony's coming from, but I also don't think we have the room to keep 3 quarterbacks on the roster active right now. If Jimmy's not good to go, then you have to make your decision before the game. Like you have to make your decision before the game. You can't come in here and say, oh, well, we thought he was good. Because look, we all know practice is totally different than a game, right? So last week you thought he was good. He was moving around good at practice, but it's also different when guys are coming at you or getting tackled and rolling on your ankle or those type of things. If he's not good to go, you sit him and you go with whoever you think is next best, whether that be CJ Beathard or Nick Mullins. I still think Nick Mullins still deserves a chance. I'm still not sold on CJ Beathard. So my theory would be, obviously, if Jimmy's good to go, you play him. If he's not, you make that decision before Saturday. You don't wait and say, oh, well, let's see what he looks like in walkthroughs, because obviously he's going to look good in walkthroughs. You're not doing much. So if he's not good to go, you don't start him. If he's good to go, then you ride with him. You ride with him. You can't continually start your quarterback and then blame it on injury and pull him if he's not playing well. Or the reason that you're getting your ass stomped and pull him and say, oh, I wanted to save his ankle. So if you're going to ride with him, ride with him. If you're not, then sit his ass.
Well said, man. I agree. I don't have much to add to that except for something that's going to come into play later on in the show. But I'll come back to my little caveat on Jimmy. But you guys all touched on it. If the guy is healthy, you got to play him. You can't sit here and keep saying he's healthy, he's not healthy, he's healthy, he's not healthy. He looked good, but he couldn't protect himself. Nick, you said something that it's very different between practice and the game. And Shanahan even went and said it wasn't. This week, just yesterday in his presser, he said, look, everything that happens in a game happens in practice. We go full speed. Even during our walkthrough day on Friday, we go full speed a couple of times. The only thing is we're not wrapping up and going to the ground. He said, we just don't let anyone hit him then. He said, that's the only thing that's different, right?
And that's a big difference.
No, I get it. But he said, so moving around, he was fine. He looked good in the pocket, and he was navigating, and he was bouncing around and everything. He said the ankle looked fine. We just didn't know how he was going to react when he was hit. And then he doubled back on, if the game was different, he still would have been in there. Shanahan, I can't figure out what he's trying to accomplish with the back and forth on Garoppolo and this injury. Here's what I do know. Garoppolo's confidence directly affects the confidence of this entire team, not just the offense. And Shanahan playing with him like this is a very risky and dangerous thing to do. If your head coach doesn't express confidence in a player, that player then becomes nervous. If that player is your quarterback, your starting franchise quarterback, the entire team is now nervous. It's not good. Shanahan needs to speak absolute faith or just flat out say, like Nick said, he's not ready and he's out. There cannot be an in-between. Not at that position, not from the head coach, not the mindset of the person in that position. All right, so we're going to move on. Hopefully, Jimmy Garoppolo can improve and we see him bounce back. No, B, I didn't. So what we're going to do now is talk about the run game. And this is going to be a little difficult to do without talking about the offensive line because that's going to be the next subject. But the run game is something that, based off of how good we were last year, us as Niner fans aren't happy. But if you step back and look at it and isolate the run game, it's not that bad, okay? So we're going to go in reverse. We're going to go to Nick, and then we're going to go to Tony, and then we're going to take it back to B. What are your thoughts in the run game? Kyle Shanahan had a presser, and he said straight up, Raheem Mostert was the best player on the field for us last week. He didn't say on the offense. He said on the field for us last week. So what are your thoughts on the run game? Having Mostert back, Shanahan seemed to have a lot of confidence there. He didn't mention his injury or anything like that. Nick, what are your thoughts on the run game, and what can we do to improve it, get it back to the standard that we had from last season?
Look, obviously, the games that we've had our running backs, I think we've been okay. I think we've been running the football half decent. Then you lose Tevin Coleman, obviously, which is I know it's not a big factor, but it is a big factor because then Jerick McKinnon and Raheem Mostert have to take more snaps. So you take McKinnon in what he's good at, the third down type back, sprinkle him in here and there to give Mostert or Tevin Coleman some breathing air, I guess you could say. But then you go down and you lose Mostert as well. Then Jerick McKinnon comes back. He's the only back. Then you can't really spell him because you got Jeff Wilson Jr. back there. But then again, Jerick McKinnon is probably one of the better pass blocking running backs compared to Jeff Wilson. So you have to use him crazy amount. But if you look at the overall running statistics, this team hasn't been bad running the football. It's just we have to abandon the run in most of our games because we're down. So obviously not the Giants and the Jets game. You look at those two games, we had really good run games. Arizona game, we got a run game going. We started trailing. We started throwing. The shit show of the Dolphins, you were never down by just 7 points. So, the lowest you were down was 14-0, and that was in the first quarter. So your running game and your game plan goes out the window, and you just start heaving the football, trying to catch up. So I think we need to see a more consistent score-based games to where you get that 50-50 type run versus pass, and then we can really dissect and figure out where our run game is at. Because if you look at the games we're up, our run game's good. And they were two poorer teams. Even against Arizona, we ran the ball well. We just had to stop because we needed to catch up. So I'm not mad at the run game right now. And then obviously you add in injury to certain players dictates a lot as well.
So Nick seems to be speaking very positively about the run game. And Tony, I want your thoughts on this also. I'm going to add something into it for you, though. When you think of the 49ers run game, do you include the 3 or 4 plays a game that go to the running backs when you think of the Niners rushing attack?
The running backs?
The wide receivers. There's two.
Yes, that's definitely a part of it.
Okay. All right.
And I honestly think Kyle, even down the points that we were, I think he still should have ran the ball because our offense is based off of the run. It's a play action based offense. We've said it numerous amount of times on this show. If he can't run the ball, that offense just stops. There's no respect. There's nothing. If they could run the ball, it's a different offense. So basically what I'm saying is I think they're going to come out with a run-heavy attack to get that offensive line going. Because, it's all about a rhythm. It's all about getting the linemen into the game. If they could run the ball, the linemen will get into the game. It'll happen with their pass protection because the defensive linemen aren't just pinning their ears back and going after Jimmy or Nick or CJ, whoever the hell it is. So you have to get them thinking. And once they start thinking, that's where the Niners could take the upper hand. I think the jet sweeps are very important. I don't know why they didn't do it versus the Dolphins because I didn't see it. I watched maybe the first quarter of that game, and I shut it off. I saw no jet sweep. I saw the action. I didn't see no jet sweep handoff. So Kyle's specialty is to attack one side, come back, attack the other side, hit him in the middle. He's trying to get that defense to start thinking and start going from their toes to their heels. So by keeping them off balance like that, that's how Kyle's so successful. And then that's when he gets into a rhythm, and that's when he becomes a ruthless play caller because that's when he has you. So that's why I think the number one phase that's going to win this game for them is their run game. If they can't get that run game going, it's done.
It's important and pivotal. I like it. Brian, I'm over here crunching some numbers, and if you include running backs, wide receivers, and the 2 attempts that George Kittle has, this team averages 5.27 yards an attempt. That's wide receivers, running backs, and Kittle, the tight end. If you just do the team overall, it's still 5 yards even an attempt. That's with quarterback sacks. That's with, all that stuff included in there. They're still averaging 5 yards a carry. And again, I'm going to say this again. We're down on this run game this year. How can they take it to the next level? And do you think that, and again, this is all tough to answer without talking about the offensive line, but do you think that this team can improve? Because they're doing some phenomenal things.
I think that the team can improve, but it's going to go back to Kyle. Kyle, this year, for whatever reason, I feel like he's he's outthinking himself. Like he's trying to plan too far ahead and not playing not playing to his player strength, just like we've talked about before. I mean, there was no reason when Mostert wasn't out, or when Tico went out, there's no reason that Jeff Wilson shouldn't have been used as that position. Misutilizing McKinnon to be your every down back. He's not an every down back. And so I think it comes back to not necessarily the running back group themselves, but how they're utilized by the coaching staff. That's what I think this is going to boil down to. So for them to be productive, like Tony said, we needed to see more out of McKinnon. You know, let's get those sweeps going. Let's use that first game that Ayuk came. Well, I mean, I know he's not a running back, but we utilized Ayuk coming out of the backfield. You know, so same sort of thing. We should be doing that more frequently. And I feel like Kyle's just out thinking himself, and it's not working. You know, whatever he's trying to get away from or conceal from whatever they did last year, or he doesn't want to give away something for later in the season. Like, well, your season is in shambles right now. Sorry, it just is due to injury. And so there's no reason to hide anything. Like, you need to play to win if you want to get to the playoffs. And that's pretty much all there is from my perspective.
Yeah, he's got to stop holding the cards close to the vest, man, because you won't have anything to show later on if you don't get there.
Right.
You got to make it in the dance to show the plays, right? So we got to step it up. I think it's time for the Niners to step up a lot. I'm looking at these numbers again. Like I said, Raheem Mostert is still. I mean, we remember the bad. We all said it was the bad and goal to go, the 4th down and goal play from like the 1 yard line with Mostert. And he's still averaging 7 yards an attempt. McKinnon is in second place as far as running backs go, and he's at 5.5. And we have been, I'm not going to say killing McKinnon, but it's clear that he's not as good as a regular ball carrier as Mostert is, and he's still over 5.5. And that's what we've kind of reflected on it during the shows and during the games and after the games, even in the overreaction. It's like, look, McKinnon's not that guy. They should do but he's still not bad. Like we're saying that. Go ahead, Tony. I see you.
So what you just said was you're saying Mostert is averaging 7 yards a touch, and McKinnon's 5.5.
Yes.
So that tells me Kyle's going away from his run game and trying to force the ball, because if you do 7 plus 5, that's 12 yards.
Yeah.
10 yards is a first down.
Mm-hmm.
So Kyle is going away from the strength of his team. For what reason, I don't know. But, I don't know how many times I have to say it. This offense is best when they're in 21 personnel. They come out in the eye and they start shifting everybody.
Right.
That's when you see this offense, because it could be one of two things. I mean, one of a ton of things. You could run off tackle right, run off tackle left. You can run up the middle, inside the tackle right, inside the tackle left. You can do jet sweep right, jet sweep left. You can throw right, throw left. You can boot right, boot left. There's so many options out of that formation. When you sit in a shotgun, there's nothing like.
Yeah. It's just a lot harder to conceal what you're doing.
Exactly. It's just like, okay, I'm either going to hand the ball off to the running back to my left and he's going to run to the right, or I'm going to throw the ball.
Yeah. Yep.
And Kyle is at his best when he's like doing these like plays that are like so, like you actually got to like pay attention, dissect, like wait when you take your read step and like, okay, where's this? Where's that? Where's this? Okay, boom, let me react. And just that thinking by that defensive player, that's how Kyle jumps on them. That's how they get out there. And it's just mind-boggling. They went through the whole friggin' playoffs with Mostert running the ball, with Tico running the ball, with Debo running the ball. And like Jimmy, what was that versus Green Bay? He threw 8 passes, 9 passes, 10 passes, if that. Like, and now they can't run the ball. Like they don't want to stick to their bread and butter. It's very confusing.
It's weird. Like you're saying that we talk about all the time. It's a game of inches. And if you can make a defense or a player hesitate for just a half a second, it's a lot more inches. You know what I'm saying? And so what you're saying is absolutely right, man. When we lost to the Cardinals, were we blown out in that game? Was that like, did we get really dominated? Were we down multiple scores in that game? I can't remember. That was week 1.
We were close, but then at the end, it got
ugly. Yeah. All right. And then let me see. It was that. And then the Eagles. The Eagles game was close all the way through. We had a chance to win it. Or
I think we had the lead.
Huh?
Then we have the lead versus the Eagles. And then they came back and scored. And then we were about to go drive down the field and take the lead. And then that's when he threw the pick 6. And then it just got out of hand.
Okay. so you don't have to abandon the run there too much. And then this last game, which just got ugly. I mean, I kind of understand trying to abandon the run there. All right, so I'm just trying to figure out what's going on, and I think we all agree that most of this stuff is correctable. It's not ability. We've seen this team execute specifically these positions in these groups that we're talking about, the quarterback and the running backs. We've seen them execute like this or at a higher level consistently. I'm not talking about a good game here or a good game there. I think that what's fresh in everybody's mind is the playoff run where Jimmy didn't have to do a lot, the Super Bowl where Jimmy couldn't finish it, and we remember that throw to Sanders that didn't connect, and then the start of this season. And so now everyone's got this Jimmy's not the guy. Jimmy's not the guy stuck in their mind. But that wasn't the mindset week 17 when we played the Seahawks. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not how we thought and felt about Jimmy Garoppolo leading into the postseason. We didn't feel that way. And so I think maybe it's a hope. Maybe it's more of a hope. But I think that we can get this team back on track, starting with the quarterback position and the run game. Now let's talk about, do you guys want to go to wide receivers, tight ends, or offensive line?
Let's finish out with the special guy or the
skill positions. You want to do the skill positions? All right, so the wide receivers. We're going to go backwards again. So we're going to go back to Brian, then Tony, and then Nick. Right? Is that how we just did it last time? All right, so the wide receivers are here. This is going to be the first week that they have all practiced together. This includes Jimmy Garoppolo, Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel. We know that this offense is predicated on rhythm and timing. Is 1 week enough time to get enough rhythm for these guys to be good, or should we expect more of what we saw last week? Maybe just a couple slight improvements. Maybe it's not as much downfield stuff. How do you think this week is going to go? 1 week of practice together. Here's week number 2 of practice together.
So you're going, I'm going to start?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
You, Tony, then Nick.
So it's really hard for me to talk about that without talking about the offensive line, because with the play that they've had, it regardless of how much time Garoppolo has had with his receivers and his tight ends and his running backs, he can create all the chemistry he wants unless he can get it out of there in 0.5 seconds. It's we're just in a situation right now where it's the line's getting dominated as far as I'm concerned.
We'll do this because I do realize that I'm putting you guys in almost an impossible situation, right? So we can say things like, if the line improves or if the line does their job and they give him his 3 seconds, then da-da-da. But if they don't, then da-da-da. We'll go there. We won't talk about what the line has to do to improve. We'll get to that.
So if we go with that thought process and the line's good to go and going to hold up and give Jimmy the time, then I think we have a fighting chance to win this game. But if the O-line plays like it has the last 3 weeks, this is going to be another L. But we're talking about wide receivers. And so we got BA out there, good to go. We got Deebo out there, should be good to go. I really liked White up, and I really liked White on special teams as a returner. I would like to see more of that because Pettis is garbage. And he might have been a great NCAA returner, but he has not shown us anything to prove that he is a returner in the NFL. If they were thinking they were going to get Hester, that's not the case. Who else we got up?
There's Bourne. There's Taylor.
Bourne, I don't know what happened last week. That dude had grease on his hands because he couldn't catch anything except for the one touchdown, right? Seemed like I don't know if that's true or not, but it seemed like he missed a lot of the passes that went his way. And I know I say a lot. We got like 4 targets or something like that, but I feel like he only caught 1 of them. And so I'm not overly enthusiastic about Bourne right now. Trent Taylor, for whatever's in the doghouse, it seems like he's not going to get much playing time. Pettis, we know, is going to be on the bench. And like I said, I liked White out there. I would like to see more of him. See we could utilize him in the red zone. Because that when we get down there, they'll probably have Kittle out there and Dwelly, and those are big bodies. And Ramsey's going to be out there following those guys on the one side. And so I think that could potentially be a nice spot where we can, score or have a better chance of scoring, utilizing taller body or get BA out there with them long arms to get something. But I like where we sit with the wide receivers, but I just, like I said, that's all dependent on whether or not the O-line is going to give them time.
You know, this is one of the first seasons in a long time where I feel like the Niners don't need help at the wide receiver position. We've just got to execute now, right? So, Tony, with that being said, what kind of things would you like to see from this wide receiving core this week? Keep in mind, it's only 2 weeks now of practice with them and the quarterback, and we don't know what we're going to get from the offensive line.
I still don't think they're going to be on the same page as it was last season when they played together the full whole season. We have Ayuk. Ayuk worked with Jimmy. He didn't work with Debo in camp because Debo was out. I mean, he worked with Kendrick Bourne pretty much the whole season while he was not injured. I still think it's going to take another week or two to get them on full full rhythm. But I mean, it goes as far as our offensive line is going to take us, and that's why I think it is so important to get that run game going. So it slows down that defensive line, and it helps these guys in their pass protection. Clearly, this is a run first offensive line. They're excellent in run blocking, getting to the second level, cutting off the linebackers. But now it comes to throwing a ball, and it's just a nightmare. They're struggling. The inside guys are struggling. Trent Williams is struggling. I don't know if it's on him or if it's communication between him and Lakeland Tomlinson. McGlinchey, I can't figure. I think he's lost too much weight, so he can't anchor and hold up with these rush guys. But I just think I think the run game is very important to help the offense take the next step in their pass game. That's the biggest thing. And once they get going, and once Jimmy gets that feel, that comfort in the pocket and knowing where those balls need to be thrown, whether it's inside, ahead, back shoulder. I mean, it's going to be a struggle. So, yeah, that's just what I think about it. I just think they have to run the ball. They have to run the ball to let everything fall back into place.
Okay. All right. The run game is predicated – the pass game is predicated on the run game success. That's what Tony feels. And if we don't do that, then we're in trouble. That's telling, man. That's really telling. All right, so Nick, man, what are your thoughts on this? Like I said, the weapons are here, at least in my opinion. I think the weapons are here. I'm not saying that Jimmy Garoppolo is the best, but Jimmy Garoppolo is definitely capable. We were literally in a Super Bowl, so we know he's good enough to get us there, right? I was going through some of these comments here, and I'm seeing people say, Mike, no, I never felt that way about Jimmy. I didn't have any faith in him. Jimmy's too injury prone. They're saying Jimmy is he's out of here. Kyle's burning him up. I know I'm going back a couple of positions here, but do you guys feel that way about Jimmy Garoppolo? And then you can answer the question about the wide receivers also, Nick. I'm sorry.
Look, I mean, Jimmy has his flaws like any quarterback in the league. Whether that's arm strength outside the numbers, whether that's reading the field completely, too fast, too slow, not seeing the field, not knowing where the blitzes are. A lot of that for a quarterback also is on the coach. And the reason I say it's on the coach is because the coach gives them a certain thing to do, and that's what they're to do. Is that the way that Jimmy Garoppolo is? Does Kyle Shanahan have a hand around Jimmy Garoppolo's neck per se, as in a choke collar, as in, no, you can only do this? That's still, we don't know. I'm not in the building. I don't know. You've heard me on the show talk about Jimmy not seeing the field. We've talked about it numerous times about the field views. But then you also hear on Mic'd Ups where Kyle Shanahan calls a play and he tells the referee, watch this guy, he's going to hold. So you knew it's predetermined where they're going with the football. How much of that is actually in Kyle Shanahan's system? So you've heard George Kittle say, Kyle said, if I run this route the correct way, I'm going to be wide open. And it's going to be an 80-yard touchdown. And what happens? So Kyle Shanahan, how much is Kyle Shanahan holding Jimmy Garoppolo back? And that's the question that we have to start asking ourselves.
You think he's got the handcuffs on his quarterbacks?
I do.
Handcuffs on everybody.
Yeah, if you look, we talked about this on the show the other night, right? And we talked about how, we talked with Eric Davis, and we talked about how, you hear can, and you get 2 plays, and this is what it is. If you don't get the read that you like, we've heard Jimmy Garoppolo in the offense call can and change the play. So therefore, it tells me he knows what he's looking at. He sees what he doesn't want to see, or it's Kyle Shanahan. Well, if this guy is here, go with this play. If this guy is there, go with that play. So, look, it's kind of hard to judge a guy on his play, as in seeing the field, throwing the ball outside the numbers type of things, because it's not called a whole lot. That's the thing. Like, if the way you get your receivers going is, yes, like Tony said, get your run game going. The other way to get your receivers going is throw a ball downfield. Make them keep you honest. We don't throw the ball further than 20, 25 yards. And if we do, it's usually in a bad situation where we shouldn't, or the receiver doesn't have enough speed to catch up to it. So I don't know where we're going wrong here, but I'm not going to take it all out on Jimmy because I don't know what Kyle's doing. And that's to be honest with you. Like, looking at plays where I go back and I say, Jimmy Garoppolo didn't see this receiver here. Or we just did it the other night on the show and said, watch the stripe on his head. He didn't move his head. He was predetermined and looking where he was going to go. So I think Kyle Shanahan needs to give him a little more room, because I think Jimmy Garoppolo does have the arm strength in the right call to throw the ball outside the numbers, 25 yards, 30 yards. Therefore, our receivers can make a play. I'm not saying he's going to come out here and heave at 60 yards, but he can make those past 20-yard throws. But we just don't do it a lot.
Well, you got to know that if you're in the middle of the field and you throw directly left or right to the side, the field is 53 and a half, right? Isn't that what
it's like 53 and an eighth or something like that.
So, I mean, you're throwing 20-plus yards just to go straight from where you are. So, to hit those hash, you have to have some arm talent, Right. Tony, go ahead. I saw you want to jump in. Go ahead, buddy.
I think the problem is the reason why they're not going down the field is because Kyle sees the offensive line struggling. So he's not going to dial something up where he knows where Jimmy hits his 3rd step or 5th step, there's people in his face. If the route can't develop, he can't set his feet and throw it. That's why I think everything is tight, like short, intermediate-based passing game. I have a question. Hopefully you guys can answer for me, because I think it's more than the injury. Okay. The problem is Jimmy went 8 for 8 versus the Giants on one leg and moved around that pocket with no issues.
You mean the Jets?
The Jets, I'm sorry. Versus the Jets when he got injured. Starts this game, he's throwing off his front foot. He can't even plant his back foot. Balls are flying in all different directions, short, high, over the shoulder, out of bounds, totally inaccurate. What's the issue? If he's on a one leg making those throws, moving that offense down the field versus the Jets, and he can't even get one pass off versus the Dolphins, something's not right. And I don't know if it's Kyle doesn't fully trust him, or if I don't know what it is, but I just think it's very odd how all of a sudden Jimmy can't hit the side of a barn right now.
Wait, well, you started your question to us with, I think it's more than the injury, but then you said how he couldn't use the back leg. So are you saying it is the injury or it's not I don't understand.
Well, that's why I'm asking you. What do you think it is? Because he got injured versus the Jets and he went 8 for 8 injured, rolling out of the pocket and making throws. Now he's allegedly healthy and he can't make one pass. So right. I don't know if it's injury related. I don't know what it is. I don't know if he just is gun shy right now. I don't know what it is.
What do you got? What are your guys' thoughts on that?
Well, I think he's having to react to his timing in the pocket. I mean, I think it really all boils back down to his, protection. I don't think he doesn't have what he was used to having last year as far as time to pass. And it seems like since week one, after week one, that our O-line is just not held up as great as it was last year or even in week one. I mean, not that it was great in week one, but they definitely gave him more time. So I think that's just him trying to react as fast as he can with his reads, and there may be something going on, but if we go back, right, his knee injury was to his left knee, right?
Ankle. Oh, what
Or-
you mean his ACL?
His original, when the Chiefs
that,
2 years
that's
ago.
his front foot, his step foot.
Right. So he's using. You're saying what you saw, Tony, was that he's using that foot to pass from. Is that what you're saying? He's passing from the front?
Meaning that he couldn't plant on his right foot to push off.
And the
But
right foot's
when you
where he had the high ankle sprain.
Yes.
Right.
So, first of all, if he's doing that in the game, why is he even out there? But then, if you flip the script and look at him versus the Jets, he played better. His best game as this season, hurt on one leg, literally. It's the oddest thing I've ever seen in my life.
I'm rewatching the Jets game right now, and I literally just saw this play happen. It was third down. He gets sacked. It's 4th and 11. He stays down on the ground. He gets up super slowly after getting hit again in the head. He gets up super slowly. He walks. He jogs. He walks and then jogs off to the sideline, right? Then they show him stretching, and he's lifting his leg and twisting it. I think it was adrenaline, bro. I know it's a lot because there's 10 minutes and 22 seconds left after the punt. That's in the first quarter. We still played another quarter with Jimmy in there, right?
Yeah.
But I know it sounds crazy. I think that's the adrenaline. I think it's the anxiousness. I've been working hard. I want to get back out there. I want to do this. You're building up a lead. You got to understand also when you're doing good, you feel even better. You know, we've all done competitive sports, right? Box, basketball, football. You're doing good. You can be tired, but you get some juice when you're doing good and you're feeling it, right? You got to remember how dominant we were in that first half. We were so dominant that we let the quarterback and the starting running back go home in the second half, right? So I think it was a combination of all that, and I think that maybe, look, we heard the reports, high ankle sprain 4 to 6 weeks. He was only out for 2.
Exactly.
He's only out for 2.
That's telling me they're rushing him back.
Right. And you said yourself he could not put that foot, he could not plant on that back foot. He just couldn't do it all game long. And he was throwing ducks. So I think maybe they did rush him back thinking that he was okay. Maybe the adrenaline in practice is also, all right, I'm ready. Let's do this. Like he's hyping himself up. Maybe they rushed him back, but they're saying that he looks better this week. So I'm hoping that that's the case. We have to transition. I don't want to go right to the defense, but we have to talk about this offensive line. There's no way that we will be able to do this without talking about the offensive line, guys. My thoughts on the wide receivers also. But,
yeah, I didn't even touch on receivers.
Oh, you didn't do it yet?
No, you asked me a question about Jimmy.
Oh, yeah. You're supposed to do both. Go ahead. What were your thoughts on the receivers? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, they all practice last week?
That's my thing. I said this is going to be their second week with everybody practicing together. Is that?
Okay, I thought you said it was the first week. I'm sorry. Yeah, my misunderstanding. I think that the receivers need to be involved in the game plan more. As in, like I just said, take a deep shot. Give these guys their confidence. Because, look, Kendrick Bourne last week, while he caught, 2 passes that was good, if that. Obviously, he got the touchdown on the one. But the receivers as a whole, as in catching the football, they're not being utilized. And that's not because of their fault or the game plan. It's because the offensive line can't protect. And whoever's behind quarterback can barely get the football off. So I think the receivers will be okay. But I really think the stem of this offense all comes back to the offensive line play. And whether that's miscommunication, whether it's just plain out missing blocks, or whether it's plain out they just suck. I haven't been able to tell what it is yet. You hear from players that their coach is praising them, that they're doing great. You hear from players that, it's not my fault. I'm doing my job. You hear from another player that says, I think I've been having actually a really successful year instead of the armchair quarterbacks out there that I don't appreciate taking a 30-second clip and using that against me. So this offensive line in general needs to man the fuck up. Excuse my language, but they need to man up. They need to stop blaming other people, take full responsibility if they screw up. And that's look, the receivers, the running backs, the quarterbacks, none of them are going to do good until this offensive line can do their job. You literally heard Mike McGlinchey say today, well, there's a communication issue, but then he turns around and says, Ben Garland's doing everything right. He's getting us in the right sets. He's giving us their communication, and I think he's playing well. You just said the communications were wrong.
Yeah,
So
but that's him calling the protections, the communications between the guards and the tackles. Like on a stunt, how you pick it up. If he goes this way, I'll grab this side, you do that.
Right. No,
That's the communication.
Completely understand that. But guys were saying that the protections were wrong. Do you remember when Trent Williams came out and said, well, the quarterback shouldn't have been there in that protection? So whose fault is it?
If that's the case, that could be on Nick Mullins. Yeah, that's the play where
right.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying, like communication on this offense in general, right? So, yes, Ben Garland calls the protection as in, okay, the scheme, whatever you're doing, protection-wise, and then obviously center and guard and tackle are going to communicate and say, hey, if this happens, then we're going to do this. And that's all in-game, obviously. But there is obvious confusion going on the offensive line. Mike, I got to hear what you got to say.
No.
Yeah, we do.
No. No. I'm going to keep going. No, I can say something about the wide receivers. I'm super duper confident in this wide receiving group. I think that we have willing blockers. I think we have a physical mindset here. And I think we have every aspect of receiving that you want on a team. I think you have possession guys. I think you have a deep threat here. I know that Brandon Ayuk's 40 time wasn't all that, but there's a reason why. I'm not going to sit here and justify it. You guys can look it up. There's a reason why. Brandon Ayuk is faster than what it shows on paper.
Oh, yeah, he plays way faster.
Right. So I'm not going to sit here and go into all that. We have Kevin White up. We know how fast he is on paper, right? His frame, his size. I think that this is the best wide receiving core this 49ers team has had since I don't even know. I was going to say the Mario Manningham and Crabtree but they're better. They're significantly better than that. That was all the same guy during that year. That was the Super Bowl year. Was that the Super Bowl year? I know during the Super Bowl, the NFC Championship game, it was Brett Swain because of all the injuries and all that. The Super Bowl year was who do we have in 2012?
Randy Moss,
Mario Manningham,
Crabtree, and Manningham.
Crabtree.
Yeah, no, I would take this group of wide receivers, pass catchers, over that one, hands down. Vernon Davis was a good one too. I mean, it's interesting, but I would still take this group over them. I know that sounds crazy, but that's really how I feel. Josh Morgan, Mark Williamson, good call back there. Jeez, I remember Josh Morgan. Oh man, but yeah, so
Quentin Patton was there too.
He was in the Super Bowl. Yeah, I think
he was there.
Like a rookie year or something like that, right?
2012, he was there. Yeah,
forgot about him.
He went to the Jets and then disappeared. But yeah, so anyway, I believe
disappeared at the 49ers too.
I believe in this wide receiving core a lot. I really, really do. We do have to talk about the offensive line. Nick started it there with his previous comment there. I'm going to go first really quick because I'm not going to say a lot. I'm going to give you guys the floor and opportunity to speak. But I think that the biggest concern with this offensive line is accountability. You know, we hear the Patriots mantra, do your job, right? But your job consists of more than just you covering the person in front of you. Your job is communicating with the man next to you, making sure you have an understanding of the defense that's coming at you and being prepared for a stunt and all that. They asked Mike McGlinchey, you guys are doing X, Y, and Z. What do you think is happening? What's going to happen? And like Nick said, he kind of snapped. Well, I don't appreciate these armchair quarterbacks critiquing me off of a 30-second clip when there's so much more that goes on into it. These guys are watching what's being posted about them they're reading every tweet. You know, they're watching videos just like this where people are bigging them up or tearing them down, and it's getting to them. This team, listen, I'm not going to say that this is the first time I think that players and coaches watch shows like this or read tweets or anything like that, but this is the first time it's getting to them. And you know why? Because it's all negative news now. When we're praising them, oh, they love it. They take it in. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to live it up. I'm going to keep being that. I'm going to keep being that guy. But now they're seeing and hearing and feeling the negative, and they don't know how to respond to it. This is new to them. This is not what this team was going through last year. We were 8-0 last year, 8-0, and here we are 2-3. We've played 5 games and we've lost 2. We've won 2 of them. This is not what people thought going into this season was going to be the case. And the teams that are beating us are pretty bad teams. That's the other surprise with this all, right? Like it's bad teams that are beating us badly. So, you know, these guys are feeling the critique. They're feeling the criticism. And there's people that are out there that are saying positive things. I have been praising Mike McGlinchey like crazy these last 3 weeks. You know what I'm saying? But I guess he's just not watching what I have to say about him. He wants to read the negative comments and feed off of it for whatever reason. But, you know, there's things that are going on. You can tell it's a different feel in the locker room. There are students who are speaking like teachers. That's the other thing that's my biggest takeaway. And that's with the offensive line in particular. They are students who are speaking and acting as if they're teachers. You don't know everything. You don't have all the answers. You are still learning. You are still studying. You need to be the sponge, not the water. You understand what I'm saying? And so until they get this mindset in their head, we're going to be in for a very, very long season. If they can do that, if they can step back, take self out of the equation, and understand that they have to get better, and the way they get better is by studying and learning and listening, then the team will be okay. The ability is definitely there. The ability is 100% there. The offensive line, the players that are there literally right now are better than the offensive linemen that we had in the Super Bowl. The players physically are better now than what they were, what we had in the Super Bowl. However, they don't play like it right now. The difference has to be mentality. I'm going to shut up. I'm not going to call anybody. You guys can just go one after the other, and I'm going to try to find this comment before it disappears because someone made a contribution.
I'll keep it easy and simple. I think it's based on the communication. That's all it comes down to. They are a very talented line. I mean, you know, the only question I would be maybe Brunskill is really out of position. I would try to get maybe McKivitz in there, get him some reps, see how he looks. But the number one thing is communication. You could have 5 All-Pros on that offensive line. If you're not communicating, you're not good. And that's all it comes down to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, as much as I hate to say it because I've been bashing on Kyle, this scheme, whatever they're doing, if we heard it when Trent Williams was like, I was in the right spot. It was everybody, you know, it was somebody else's problem, whatever, however you guys want to take that. But if it's not working, and you feel like, and the players feel like they're executing, then there's a problem with the game plan, with the scheme itself. So that's on the O-line coach to figure out how to get his players to gel, because I haven't seen Garland really play poorly. At least he hasn't stood out as playing poorly, like Brunskill has, or like Tomlinson's been pushed around, or like Williams is apparently not in the wrong spot like we all see he is, or McGlinchey's getting pushed to the ground or clear out of the fucking play, you know? So I think it comes down to the fact that while I understand the communication between the guards and the tackles is a problem, I don't put the onus or the blame on the center at all right now. I mean, if you see Richburg comes back and we just take this huge step forward, then maybe that was part of the problem, but I just don't see it right now. So as far as the O-line's concerned, I put the onus right now. If all the players are saying they're doing the right things, then that's got to be on the O-line coach and the head coach and the offense. Well, there's no offensive coordinator, but on them. Now, that being said, that coaching staff sees all of these players at practice, all through training camp, every game, you know, and they talk to their medical staff. They know who's the best the most healthy to put where they put them. And obviously they trust each of these individual players in their positions. Otherwise, we would have seen McKivitz or School come in to spell positions wherever they feel like they need to. Because I want to see McKivitz out there. But obviously the coaching staff doesn't think that McKivitz is better than Brunskill or McGlinchey or Tomlinson or Garland or anyone else.
Or maybe Kyle really believes that the next guy doesn't get promoted until there's an injury, because he said that about Beathard and Mullins. One guy got hurt, and then the other guy had to step in, and then I never put the other guy in because it was never a competition. Like, is it possible he really thinks that way? Like,
I don't know, because you want to win. You're a coach. You're in the NFL, and you want to fucking win games. So you should put your best players out there, regardless of the situation, so that you can win a game. I don't think that they're like, we're not at the point where they're like tanking, right? We're not. That's not in their thought process.
Mm-hmm.
It shouldn't be in any NFL team's thought process, but I definitely don't think it's in the 49ers thought process. And so they're the ones getting to analyze these players. We can sit here and look at what we see on game day, or if we get a snippet from one of the beat reporters, from camp or whatever, but we don't get the in-depth know of what's going on. And so I have to some extent, while I bag on Kyle every time I'm on here, they know what's going on. They're going to put the best players to make the team the best that it possibly can be. And so we have to trust them to do that, and if not, then, we don't blame Jed, but Jed hired all these guys. So that's the ownership falls back on him.
Yeah. Yeah. And well, I won't get into Jed right now, but Nick, you want to take this comment and then give us your thoughts on it all? Oh, you're on mute, buddy.
My bad. Alex Faulkner says, is Williams washed, or does he not know the plays well? Seems like he doesn't know where to go, and because of that, he doesn't play at full speed. $4.99 contribution. Appreciate it. I don't know where to go with Trent right now. And I don't know. I don't want to say that he doesn't know the plays. He played in Kyle Shanahan's system for years over in Washington. Now, while the system may have evolved and it's not completely the same, the verbiage and things like that is probably really close to what it was. Look, Trent Williams has been out of football for a year and a half. Is that to say that he stinks? No, I don't think he stinks. I think he's just not there yet. He's had some issues. The last few games has not been playing well. But then you can look down the entire offensive line and say they're not playing well. So is it one person on this line that's hurting this team? No. If it's not one person that week, it's two others the next. If it's not those two that week, it's two other people the next. So it definitely I don't think it has anything to do with his not knowing the play. I think a lot of it is communication issues. This team hasn't played together. Look, you lose. I understand. I wanted to sit there and I want to say this, but it's not right to say. And what I'm going to say is, and I know it's not right to say, but Justin School came in and didn't miss a beat with communication last year. Right? I mean, the
Absolutely.
kid, we were asking the kid to continue to play, even when Joe Staley was healthy, and Mike was fighting for him not to come back in because he didn't have he was just coming off injury. Let him rest a week. Justin School's doing his job, doing what he needs to do. Where is the communication breakdown this year? You have a new left tackle. Your right tackle's been there. Garland's playing center, which he played last year. Brunskill's playing guard. Right? Yeah, Brunskill's playing right guard, where he's played before. He's probably a better tackle than he is guard. Then Laken Tomlinson was one of my guys that was a low-key person last year and doesn't look good this year. But you got Trent Williams and Tomlinson on one side with their communication. McGlinchey, who's a vet in the system now. Trent Williams, I would consider a vet in the system because he knows the offense. Lakin Tomlinson stayed the same. Brunskill's played guard. Obviously, Ben Garland would probably be better there. But the communication's on both sides of the football. So why is there communication issues? Like, I don't understand that. I really don't understand it, because really the only thing that's changed on this line is Brunskill playing guard and adding Trent Williams. Because Garland played center pretty much all of the end of last year.
We lost Mike Person. That's what's wrong.
Yeah, we lost Mike Person. There's one other change that nobody's really talking about.
Oh, man.
And that's Chris Forrester. How much rain did Benton give Chris Forrester on these guys?
No, Chris Forrester was involved with this behind the scenes. Just because he wasn't officially hired, he wasn't
He wasn't allowed on the field.
But he's still here.
Now he's on the field.
That don't matter. That don't matter. He could sit up in the booth and call right down and say, listen, have him do this, do that. But it's Benton that makes the calls. He's the offensive line coach. He's just an assistant.
Right, no, I understand that. But I'm saying this is the only thing that I can think of that has changed is Chris Forrester being on the field, coaching these guys now, compared to doing office work that he was doing for the last 2 years. So is Benton easing him in, giving him more to these players? That's the only difference I see in this offensive line.
I personally, I don't think it's that. I just because he wasn't allowed on the field last year, it doesn't mean that he wasn't part of the game planning and schemes and protections versus defensive fronts for that week.
Well, his title last year was what? Consultant?
Yeah.
And what is it now? Like assistant offensive
He's an offensive assistant.
Offensive. Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't mean
because I want to be honest with you, the shot callers for the run game and the protections really is McDaniels and Benton. That's who pretty much designs this offense as far as the interior with the blocking schemes. I just think the problem is it's between Lakin Tomlinson and Trent Williams. That for some odd reason, them two cannot get on the same page. And until those two get on the same page, this is what it's going to be. Me personally, I think Tomlinson's pay dropped off from last year because of the lack of communication between the two. Because I'm going to tell you guys right now, if Trent Williams was really bad, all that camp that they went through with him and Bosa going on one-on-ones where they said it was a freaking Royal Rumble, he would have been getting smoked right off the bat there. That would have been the tell-all sign saying, okay, listen, this guy's not as good as we are hoping he's going to be. And the second thing is shortened offseason. Shortened offseason is key to getting on the same page with this offensive line, with them gelling. That's just my opinion. I know people probably feel different, but the more reps you get, the better the offensive line you become. And they've got no reps in camp together as far as like competition level, where they went to Denver for a week and they played inter-squad scrimmaging for 4 to 5 days that they were there. So I just feel that until those two get on it, and listen, it could happen this week or it could happen next week. They need the reps together. They need to communicate together. It's not Garland. Garland was on a Super Bowl contending team on an offensive line calling protections in playoff games, in the Super Bowl, leading up to the playoff games. Brunskill, I just don't think he's a guard, even though I was on his bandwagon to give him an opportunity as a guard, but I just don't see him as a guard. But until those two get on the same page, this offensive line is going to struggle. And that's why I think Kyle has to be very, very vanilla with his play calling, because the offensive line, like I said before, you could have Orlando Pace and Jonathan Ogden as your two tackles with the Castro. You could have every best lineman. If they're not going to communicate and they're not on the same page, they're going to struggle.
All right, so I think let me wrap up our entire offensive review here, right? And I do think that they rebound. I think that we see what this team has got this week. Doesn't mean that I think we're going to win. Doesn't mean that I think we're going to put up 30-plus points. But here's what I will say about that. This team has been served the biggest piece of humble pie in the entire world. Not only did you lose to the Dolphins, right? It's one thing to go toe-to-toe in a shootout. You have no secondary, right? You have your excuse for why you give up so many points. Ryan Fitzpatrick was just slinging the ball all over the place. Your starting quarterback played so poorly he had to be benched. Remember when we laughed at Aaron Rodgers when that happened against us? You guys remember that? Aaron Rodgers had a very similar rating to Jimmy Garoppolo when that happened against him. And
Our quarterback did last year.
At least he made it 3 quarters. You know what I'm saying? Like Jimmy was pulled at halftime, you know? I think that does something to a team. Rodgers went on a tear after that until he ran into us in the postseason, right? But then he's back at it again this year, and Rodgers looks just as good, if not better, than Russell Wilson. And I think Russell Wilson's the best quarterback in the league, okay? What I'm saying is when you get humbled in the way, in the fashion that you did, there is a lot of self-reflecting that takes place. There's a lot of I have to do better by, and then they fill in the blanks themselves, okay? That's going to happen to this team right now. We're going to see what they're really made of. And if they come out here and they lay a goose egg, I have no problem saying, hey, this season's over. And I will hold to that for the rest of the year. I don't care if we win 5 games in a row and we end up with a record that's 5-4. Or I'm sorry, 7-4. I won't care. What I see this week against this upcoming opponent is what I'm going to believe that this 49ers team is made of. That's not a win or loss. I'm talking about effort and effort only. Because on the offensive side of the ball, that's what I'm reviewing here. On the offensive side of the ball, you've got everybody except Jordan Reed right now. Everybody. You can sit here and say, oh, we don't have Weston Richburg. We barely had Weston Richburg last year also. I'm not counting him as the end-all, be-all, or the big difference maker. You got everybody here except Jordan Reed. And so if this team can't show that they can get it together right now, and this season with the only new piece being Brandon Ayuk, I don't want to hear any excuse. I can't make excuses. You guys are talking to Mike. I had this team going 13-3. I still have us going 13-3 at this moment because we haven't lost 4 games yet. But if we go out here and we don't put up a fight, if we don't show that this offense can put up points at will and when they need to, we can lose the game. We can lose this game because the defense might not be able to hold up. And we're going to talk about the defense now in 30 minutes. Okay? But if this offense can't do what they need to do in convincing fashion, this season is over. That's what I have for it. Does anybody else have anything else to say on the offense before we move on to the defense?
Hey, just so you know, we lost all 3 games that we lost last year without Weston Richburg.
Oh, so he is the key to success.
I'm just saying,
Man.
all 3 of our games that we lost was after he got hurt.
How many did we win without him? I'm just messing with you. Obviously, it's like 3 or 4 more also. I'm just messing with you. All the postseason wins and all that. I'm just messing with you. All right, so this defense, it's interesting. I was watching the clock. We had a little pregame huddle, and I said, at 45 minutes I was going to stop us. But when I was reflecting on the defense, I don't think that there's as much to fix as there is on the offense. I know that sounds crazy, but there's so many injuries, we can't expect these guys to perform to the normal standards. So I don't think that there's as much to talk about on the defense side of the ball. That's why I let it run over what it did. So let's start with the defensive line. I want to ask your guys' opinions on how the defensive line looks to you so far. Let's start with Tony, and then Nick or Brian. You guys can jump in afterwards. But you're watching this defensive line adjust. I'm watching this. Well, yeah, I'm still watching this Jets game here. Man, Jordan Reed is going to be phenomenal when he comes back. By the way, I forgot that this guy was on this team. Jordan Reed is going to be a hell of a piece. Like as I sat there and talked all this smack about if this offense doesn't show right now, like they're going to get even that much better when he returns. But all right, anyway, this defense is going to miss Nick Bosa. We're already missing him. Nick Bosa is not just really good in the pass game. I've watched these first 2 drives that he was in on. He's phenomenal in the run game also. His ability to shed blockers, swoop around them, and still make a tackle behind the line of scrimmage, there's nobody on this defensive line coming from the end position doing it like that. Not a single person. So Nick Bosa is obviously missed, but I want to give it to Tony. What are your thoughts on what this makeshift defensive line is doing for this team?
I think they're doing as best as they could, to be honest with you. I think Hyder is a blessing in disguise. When we signed him for a 1-year deal, like, people are like, oh, like, he's not going to make the roster. He's competition guy. And you have to look at it. He was handpicked by Kocurek, and he was brought in to compete. So Kocurek knew what he was about. So I think Hyder's playing lights out. I think Kinlaw's improved from week 1 to now. I think DJ Jones is playing his best, probably has his best season as a 49er right now. Listen, Eric Armstead, very quiet. Could it be like, he is playing solid, he's applying pressure, but he's just not getting home? We would have to really, really like go down each game and try to chart it. But listen, they're playing as best as they could. And on the defensive side of the ball, this overview should be really quick because everyone's hurt and they're playing the best that they could. And that's that.
No,
Tony alluded.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Brian.
Go ahead.
Tony alluded something that I was going to give you anyway. I think that this defense, specifically the line, I actually think that they're exceeding expectations. If I told you that we would have to sign 4 guys between weeks 2 and weeks 5 to come in and play and start at edge, do you think that we would be getting the production we're getting? I think everyone would say no, because if we had to sign that many people, that means we would have lost 3 people, right? So that's where we are. And he said one more thing that I'm going to give you to focus on is Armstead is he playing as well? I think Armstead is the one player that I would like to see a little bit more from.
At least get home.
No, I don't think that it's not that. I don't think that he's not getting home. I want to see a little bit more leadership. I want to see after someone else makes a big play, Armstead run up to them, slap him on the helmet, slap him on the ass. It's little stuff like that keeps the camaraderie going. That's what I want to see. But I want to get Brian's thoughts on it. And maybe it's just I'm seeing it from a slanted point of view. So I want to hear your breakdown of the defensive line, and Armstead also focus on him.
Well, I know I've talked about it previously in other shows that we've done, but I'm all about Kinlaw and his production so far. I love where he's going, and I think he's gonna be phenomenal for this team. Obviously can't talk about Bosa because he's not here. So that being said, you're missing that. Him just walking on the field creates hesitation, and I don't want to say fear because quarterbacks shouldn't be fearful of a player, but he creates that moment of hesitation no matter what, because they have to account for him. And we don't have anybody to slide in there to do what Bosa does, because not many people can do what Bosa does. But I'm with Tony all the way. I love the fact that Hyder's playing the game that he's playing. He's kind of like been a godsend for us just because, we're missing that, from both sides with D Ford being out and with Bosa being gone. We have to have somebody in there to create some production, and Kerry Hyder's been that for us. I agree that DJ Jones has been playing great. Unfortunately, we had Anza come in and then obviously get injured right off the bat, basically. But I have a lot of faith in this defensive line. I think that they can remain productive. Obviously, throughout the season so far, they've been pretty good against the run. Right, we're still pretty high in the rankings there for against the run. It's just a pass pro, but there's a lot to be said about that, because a lot of that. I know that the defensive line gets a lot of criticism for that, right? Because they're not able to get to the quarterback as often as we're used to seeing. But I think a lot of that has to back if you're going to talk about the secondary, that it's weak this year and right now, because we had so many injuries that it hasn't been beneficial to our defensive line at all. But I like where they're going. I think that we're good there, and obviously we'll get better when pieces come back. I look forward to seeing Kevin Givens when he comes back. That's pretty much it. I mean, I hope for more out of Dion, as he progresses through the season. I just hope that kind of gets better.
So, Nick, I know you're just jumping back in here. We're on the defensive line and our overall thoughts. Tony started it with, there's so many injuries here. He thinks that they're playing as well as they could be. He said that he thinks maybe Armstead could step it up a little bit. I jumped in and I second what he said. I actually said I think that the people who are coming in and have replaced the losses have exceeded expectations. We think about this for a second. We signed 2 guys, Ansah and Jordan, and then we lose both of them for a little bit. Right? Didn't we lose?
No,
Ansah?
Jordan was just down on the practice squad the whole time. And then
No, but he recovered a phone. Oh, that's right. That's right. He wasn't active. Okay.
Yeah, he wasn't active. He was on practice.
He wasn't active. That's right. And then we lost Ansah for the season. So, all right. So, I mean, but my point is that, even the reserves went down, and then the people we picked up off the street went down. I honestly think that the people who are out there have exceeded expectations. Brian just echoed his sentiments, and you heard the end of it there. What are your thoughts on the defensive line? But before you answer that, take care of the comment, the contribution, and give us your thoughts on the D-line.
Jashawn Page with the $25 donation. Appreciate you. They need to move Brunskill back to tackle because he's a better pass blocker. And we were just talking about that he's a better tackle than he is guard. I think personally, obviously, I think he plays tackle better. But they're not going to move him to Mike McGlinchey's spot or Trent Williams' spot. They obviously have faith in both those guys. They wouldn't have went out and got Trent Williams, and he wouldn't be starting. And Mike McGlinchey, you hear them say that the coaches tell them that, they get points deducted or whatever you want to say. So therefore, I think once Garland or Richburg is healthy, Richburg will go back to center. Garland will go back to guard. And then Brunskill will be riding the bench in case of an injury. That's my thoughts on it. But yes, I definitely agree that he's a better tackle. As for the defensive line, I think they're playing average. I think they're playing like they're not Nick Bosa, like they're not, the guy we're going up against this week. I don't even want to say his name, right? They're not those guys. They're not Chandler Joneses. They're not, those type of guys. So you look at what they play so far. Kerry Hyder has stepped in well, and he's done his job. He's just not getting home, right? And I think a lot of that is speed. And the quarterbacks that we have played all pretty much have the ability to get outside the pocket and extend plays. Now, while that hurts us, that's offensive game planning and game scheming and quarterbacks and those things. Eric Armstead has always played better inside than he has outside. Always, in my personal opinion. Ronald Blair coming back is a godsend because he can play outside and move Armstead back inside where he excels. Armstead hasn't had a bad year. Hyder hasn't had a bad year. DJ Jones, I'm not as big as Tony was saying that thinks he has had the best year of his career right now. I think he looks slower off the ball. I don't think he's playing to his potential, but that's just me. That's my thoughts. I'm trying to think of who else. Deion Jordan. Deion Jordan's a new guy that's in the system. It's new for him. I think he's playing a little too amped up, to be honest with you. As in, I'm going to go make this play, and he's going after it, and he's biting on a lot of stuff. So therefore, I think that's hurting him. But overall, man, I can't really say anything bad about this defensive line for who you have in there. I think they're playing well.
When I look at this, I'm actually going to change this up a little bit because we're going to wrap this up very, very soon. I want to see what your guys 1050. I want to see what your guys' thoughts are on something here. I'm going to give you some numbers really quick, and then I want you guys to respond freely. Let me just pull up this comment here first. Let me find it. This is the one, right? We're off the offensive line, but let's do a quick yes or no, and why if it differs from anyone else's opinion. So let's start with Brian, then we'll go with Nick, and then we'll go with Tony. You're on mute, buddy, or your microphone's out. Yeah, you're on mute. There you go.
All right. So when I saw this comment, I realized that I really hadn't thought about him when I'm thinking about his 5th-year option. And
He's only in his third year, so we don't have
with
to
the-
exercise that until next year.
right. But as he's playing now, if they're looking at that as a possibility, given his gameplay this year, I would say that they won't. That also has to do with cap implications too, but that, you know, we'll have to see how that pans out next year because they don't have to, like you said, they don't have to make that decision yet.
All right, guys, what are your thoughts?
I say if he continues to play this year the way he's playing and goes into next year, no, they're not going to pick it up. If he improves and he elevates his play, becomes more consistent, they could pick it up.
I'm going to go a little different route here.
Ooh, surprise.
Yeah, I think it's different. I think it depends on how many people we lose next year and what the cap space is like. And the reason that I say that is because you're not going to go and draft a lineman to take over for him when he's built in the system. And it depends on how many people we lose on the defensive side of the football field, as in what you do with offensively. And I know that sounds weird, but if you pick up the 5th-year option, it's still cheaper and more costly to the team, I guess you could say, as in not money-wise, but it's more beneficial to the team to keep him around than bring in another younger guy unless they have a complete faith in Justin School. And Justin School mainly plays left tackle. I've never seen him at right tackle. And I think that's – so I'm going to say right now with his play, no. But I also definitely think it has a lot to do with what we lose and have to bring back.
Were those guys in the same draft, or Justin School came the year after?
Justin School just came 2 years after last year, wasn't it? Last year was his rookie year.
And this
Came out in Bosa's draft.
Yeah.
And this is his 3rd year. This is McGlinchey's 3rd year.
Yeah, so not last year's draft that just passed the year before that.
Right. So if you don't pick up McGlinchey's 5th-year option, you're going into School's last year of his contract. All right, Tony, what are your thoughts on it, man? Wake up.
I said my thoughts.
Yeah.
Pay attention, Mike.
I went first.
Ryan went, then Tony went, then I went.
Oh shit.
So wake up, Mike.
Yeah, right. I must have blacked out over here. All right, my bad. I'm picking up his option. I'm not even hesitating to pick it up. It's not even just about his play this year. And look, I'm watching this Jets game. Mike McGlinchey's having a pretty good game, but here's what stands out. There was a big Mostert run in the first quarter that got called back. It was a touchdown. It was like a 70-something yard touchdown run that got called back because of a ticky-tack holding call. His penalties are the worst penalties in the world because they usually take points off the board or result in a turnover. Like I've never. It's like a special talent this guy has. Like you're gonna mess up once a game, but it's gonna cost your team 6 points when you do it. I've never seen anything like this before in my entire life. So you know, if you have a guy who ends a season with, 10 to 15 penalties, that's not that bad, especially if they're out there for 76 offensive snaps a game, right? But it's just that they're huge plays. I think it's correctable. And if you believe it's correctable and you believe the ability is there, you keep him around. Is he a top 15 at his position? And when I say his position, I don't just mean tackle. I mean right tackle. I don't think there's 15 better right tackles in the league right now. I could be wrong. I don't have numbers. I'm not watching all of them. I just don't think with what I see from him, I don't think so. And so I'm keeping him. That's my opinion on it. Now, let's get back to this defense here really quick. I have some numbers for you guys, all right? Check this out. The 49ers are currently, after this big loss, after giving up 7 trillion yards to the to the Miami Dolphins in the pass game, the 49ers are 3rd in passing yards allowed as far as defense goes, okay? They are 10th in rushing yards allowed, But here's the crazy thing. They are 14th in points allowed in this league right now. Okay? So that 14th, that 10, and that 3 tells me one thing. These teams are starting with pretty good field position. Because if they're not getting the yards through passing and running, but we're still 14th in scoring, that means that these teams are starting with decent field position. Maybe, just maybe, the special teams need to step it up a little bit. However, I want to know what your guys' thoughts are when you hear those numbers, because we all know last week was the week 5 of the season. That was the 5th different combination of starting corners we've played all year. And this week, we might finally get a repeat. We don't really know yet, but we might finally get a repeat of who the starting corners are going to be. Robert Saleh would not say who they were. But here we are. I can't fault the secondary, and they're 3rd in the league in yards allowed. I can't. We've got blown out by teams. They threw for over 400 yards last week, which I will say is an anomaly. Without that 400 yards, we might be in first place. If it was a regular 250-yard game, we'd be really close to first place. So I can't fault the secondary, right? The run game, when teams have leads on you like that, they purposely run the ball. We're still 10th, and the points allowed is 14th. We're in the middle of the pack with points allowed. I want to get your guys' thoughts on it all. I know it's a lot, but whoever wants to go first, take off, and let's just discuss it and how can we improve it.
My take's pretty simple. I think that you look at our competition through the first 5 games, and that should explain why we're sitting where we're sitting. Now we're going to have what we look at is, or what most people will say is a tougher section of our schedule. We're going to fall in all those rankings.
Now, let me just give you this really quick, okay? Because I had a feeling one of you guys were going to say that. Now, I'm going to start with the rushing, okay? The teams that are ahead of us that have played common opponents are the Rams in rushing yards allowed per game. The Rams are ranked 9th, even though we're ranked 10th, okay? They're ahead of us. So they've played 2 of the same opponents that we've played. Now we're about to play each other. In passing yards, okay, yards allowed per game, same team, the Rams, okay? They're ranked 2nd, even though we're ranked 3rd. So it's what you're saying looks like it's adding up, right? Like we've played the same teams. That's why, because they don't have those guys. But, you know.
Are you going to individualize those games or not?
What do you mean?
Okay, we played same opponents.
Mm-hmm.
How did we do specifically against those opponents compared to how the Rams did against those opponents?
Oh, I see what you're saying. You want me to pull? Okay. All right, give me a couple of seconds here. I got to pull that up. Go ahead, guys. What are your thoughts on that?
Go ahead, Nick.
Go ahead, Tony.
No, I got to think about what I'm going to say. Because I'm kind of leaning towards one. But go ahead.
Look, a lot of it – you're right, Mike. A lot of it is field position, and that's turnovers. We've turned the ball over a lot in easy field position. We can go back to Nick Mullins had 3 interceptions, 1 in the red zone, 1 pick 6, and 1 just as we got into our red zone at the 30-ish, not even quite to our red zone, which then went to the 40, and they started at the 47 or something like that. Jimmy Garoppolo's had interceptions. CJ Beathard has 1 interception? Is it 1 or 2?
I think he's got 1.
Yeah, I think it's 1 too. But look, this is the thing that we've talked about, and our secondary has always been suspect, right? And last year it was covered up more so by pass rush. This year, while it's not crazy bad statistic-wise, it's bad because of the way that our yards are up. Look, we're giving up 3rd and 22s. We're giving up, 2nd and 15s. Those yards right there is where I grade these guys at, because when it comes down to getting off the field, we either A, give up a big penalty, or B, we give up a big yardage play. And that's where I'm grading them at. I'm not grading them at overall how many yards they give up or where they're at statistically in the NFL, because games that we could have won, we gave up a big 3rd down to keep the drive going, or we gave up a penalty to push them further towards our zone. So that's where I'm judging these guys. And I'm sure they would tell you the same thing. If we could have a couple of these games that we played are one difference in play to where we win the football game. Other than the Dolphins, obviously. Even the Dolphins game could have went differently if we did a play or two differently. Because we could have scored and been right in the game and took the breath of fresh air out of their lungs. So I'm grading them on when they give up the play, where they give up the play on the field, and obviously turnovers is not helping them as well. We've had a lot of blown coverages in the secondary, and I know that is factoring into where we say, well, this guy never even played a snap or this and that. Well, that's coaching. That's coaching. Jimmy Ward has blown coverages this year. Corners have blown coverages this year. So it's not just rookies. So yeah, I can't give them the complete full benefit of the doubt. They're playing as hard as they possibly can, but I think the mistakes is what's killing the secondary this year, as well as the pass rush. So that's what I'm going to say.
Well, you guys got to keep talking because I'm still looking shit up.
I think the definitely the injuries to our pass rush is killing the secondary, obviously, and the way this defense was constructed, it's built from the front back. So, I mean, I'm going to be honest. I could give two shits about those rankings right now because we're so depleted. I mean, they are on a positive side, but you question the competition. But I mean, how many more injuries could this team take? Like now it's Quan Alexander. God forbid one of the safeties go down. It's like finally Mosley's back, the blue jersey's gone, and allegedly it's going to be Mosley and Verrett. I mean, it is what it is. It is coaching to a point. I mean, Allen was literally pulled off the street 2 weeks ago. They could get that kid as good as potentially prepared as they could, but remember, he's coming from the street. He's not coming from another practice squad. He's not coming from a trade acquisition or he's signed as a free agent in the middle of the offseason. So, and that's all because of all the injuries. So, I just think, honestly, I can give two shits about those rankings as long as they're competing and trying to keep this offense, keep the game within reach for the offense. I think now the pressure is switched from, okay, we have a standout defense. Well, guess what? Now the offense has got to carry the defense instead of vice versa. And the problem is Kyle wants to do that, but between the offensive line, Jimmy, the injuries, now they're all back except for Jordan Reed. Maybe this week you see something. Maybe this week you see the improvement, and then next week they come out guns blazing. But we don't know.
We have to see this offense move the football this week. Like there's no excuse like that. This offense has to get going one way or another, because if they don't, it's going to be too late at one point. Now, look, we're talking about 7 teams making the playoffs this year. The thing that the Niners have going for them right now is the entire NFC, other than a couple teams, suck. Records are bad. Other than division leaders, like, I think I did it the other night, even at 2-3, we could still be the 7 seed.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's how bad the NFC is right now. So you got the NFC East completely out of it because a team that's, 2-3-1 is winning their division right now. Then you got the Packers, good. The Saints don't look good. Who else was I looking at? Who's leading the NFC
South?
South.
Tampa.
And what's their record? 3-2?
Oh.
So, but you look at these records and it can absolutely take off. This team can absolutely take off. There's until they're 4, 5, well, I'd say 5, 6 losses, 7. They're still in this. It's just they got to get shit going. They got to get motivated. They got to be angry. All that talk we were talking about before, offensively and defensively with the Philadelphia Eagles, this is a must-win game for them. Look, it's truly must-win games now for the Niners.
The Niners are currently the 9th seed as it stands today. Currently in 9th.
In 9th.
Yeah.
So 2 games out.
Right. The teams ahead of us are the Panthers and the Saints.
Yeah, what's the Saints record?
But they're only up because of strength, right?
No. They all have 3 wins. We're the highest ranked 2-win team in the NFC. But there's 4 teams with 3 wins, and 3 of them from the same division. Tampa, Carolina, and then New Orleans. In between them is the Cardinals. So then you have the Seahawks, who are undefeated, 5-0. The Packers, who are undefeated, 4-0. The Bears, who are 4-1. The Rams, who are 4-1.
Right. So that's 4.
Yeah, and then you have the Buccaneers, who are leading their division at 3-2. The Cardinals, who are 3-2. The Panthers, who are 3-2, and the Saints, who are 3-2.
Right. So so we're 9 now. Okay.
It's going to be very, very hard to make the playoffs, even with the addition of the wild card.
I think what Nick is saying is it's actually pretty easy to make the playoffs. With as bad as we are right now.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, to even be still considered 9th out of 7 seeds, having 3 losses already at week 5, it's 100% complete doable. But you got to win.
Not going into this stretch.
Well, you got to start playing football, dude. You can't, look, if this offense gets going, it's going to fire up the defense.
It's so funny because this stretch wouldn't be as scary if this team wasn't playing. If this team was playing the way they were last year, we would look at this stretch and be like, all right, let's get busy. Like, we
that's
did that
the thing. It's due to no pass rush, no
Right.
Bosa, no Ford, no Sherman. You don't know what the hell his problem is. Those are big injuries. That is like, first of all, if any other team, you take these injuries and put them on the Seahawks, they don't have 1 win. You put it on the Buccaneers, they don't have 1 win. You put these injuries on the Saints, same
I
position.
don't think that's true. Wait, I don't think that's true because the Seahawks don't have a defense at all.
So you're telling me if Russell Wilson missed games, they would win?
No. Oh, because we had Jimmy out for a game and a half.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay. No. You're right. I didn't
Like-
think about the whole Jimmy.
Like you take, like we lost what? Debo, we lost Jimmy. So you take either Lockett or Metcalf off the roster and Russell Wilson. They're not winning a game. I'm
and
sorry.
like you said, Mostert, so that means that they lose Carson. Oof, yeah. Okay.
Right.
No, you're absolutely right. But isn't that more of a reason to like believe that we can rebound?
It is, but
Guys back now.
the problem is
Not
we
until
got our
this
2
offensive
wins.
line gets its shit together.
We got our 2 wins against what? The Jets and the Giants?
Yeah.
Now you're going up against the Rams. You're going up against Seattle. You got the Patriots. You got
But we have the Rams, who have 2 common opponents in 4 weeks.
Yeah, but who's going to stop Donald and Brockers? How's that going to happen?
When's the last time Donald had a big game against the 49ers? I know we're not talking about this matchup yet, but it's a real thing, guys. It's a real thing. Every year they gas up. Sam Darnold's going to come in here and dominate the 49ers. He never does shit against this team.
It's not the offense that I'm worried about. I think Kyle could scheme. I think Kyle could scheme him out. I think they can move the pocket. They can run away from him. I think that the problem is trying to stop that offense that Sean McVay is going to run.
And I think we're getting ahead of ourselves. I think the offense that McVay is running is a carbon copy of what we were running last year. Short passes across the middle, and these guys eating in space, and that plays into the hands of our linebackers. That plays into the hands of our defense. I'm sorry. We get burned and beat by the deep shit, by the stuff going over our head. They're not doing that at all this year. That's not their game plan. I don't want to get into this right now because I want to save it for later on, but I promise you,
The sad thing is I think our linebacking crew is better with Quan Alexander off the field.
And
Especially in coverage.
I know people feel that way, especially in coverage, right? I know that there are people who feel that way. And that's my point. Like, I don't want to get into this right now. We're going to get into it later, I promise. We're at the hour and 40-minute mark already. We're going to wrap this thing up here. But I'm not afraid of what this Rams team does. I think it plays into our hands. I think their offense matches up really good against or I should say our defense matches up really good against their offense. And I think our offense now that's what's concerning to me. The offense is what's concerning to me.
I think once this offense gets going, you're going to see a whole different team.
Yes.
Because this defense is definitely down because we can't score points. They're playing their ass off for the most part in every game that we played other than the Dolphins game. In the beginning, before we benched Allen, our defense was playing good. You go and you give up 148 yards or whatever and 3 touchdowns to 3 guys that he's covering, right? Yeah, they scored more points, but our defense was deflated. We could not stay on the field offensively. We have no long drives. We can't score. And we go from averaging 29 points a game. Obviously, we played the Giants and Jets, which helped a little bit, to barely scoring over 17. I really think that the spark we need is this offense to do some work. If this offense can get long drives, they can put the ball in the end zone. I think it fires up the defensive side, and then you start seeing a spark and a click. Right now, this offense needs to do something.
Let's answer this question and go home, because I think this is
I'm already home, but I understand.
I think this is a very good question to wrap the show up on. I think this is a really, really good question. What are your guys' thoughts? Let's start with Brian, then we'll do Tony, and then Nick.
Yeah, I give up on Kyle. I can't even begin to guesstimate what he's going to do. I really can't, because we're not seeing similar plays that we saw last year, because he can't scheme it to make it happen with the offensive line that we have, however you want to look at it, or because Jimmy was out, or because Debo was out, or whatever. But yeah, I don't know what's going on in Kyle's head, but I don't see anything crazy happening. Like the things that we want to see, the jet sweeps, the crosses, going across the middle, getting Kittle. I just don't see him doing it. I don't know what is going on or what their game plan is, but I think he wants to do something and it's not being effective, and it's just pushing him to try to do it more. And so we're not seeing what we want to see, or he's not seeing what he wants to see, so he's just going to keep trying it until it works instead of playing to his players' strengths,
Okay. All right, so we got I don't know. All right, you don't know if he's holding back or if he's being stubborn. Tony, what are your thoughts, man? Nice shot you got up there, bro.
I don't think he's holding back at all. I think he has to. This is the offense he has to run because of the predicament that he's in, as far as what the offensive line play, the injuries that happened prior to this point, potentially the lack of confidence of Jimmy. I think this is the offense until everybody on that offense can show that they can elevate their game, and then he'll open his offense up, because I don't think this line could hold up. Well, it's not talent-wise, but communication-wise, I don't think they can hold up for long developmental plays. I don't.
So you're really buying into the communication then, Tony?
100%. It's not talent. I don't think it's the talent. I think between the two of them, I mean, you could even see it on the replays. There's 2 times I can count on. 2 times right off the count off the top of my head. Williams and Tomlinson both arguing on the field. That's communication. That's not talent. That's saying, "Oh shit, I thought you were going to do this. No, you were supposed to do this." How many times when the one play where I think it was, I don't know what team it was. I think it was either the Eagles or the Dolphins, where Trent took like an outside set, and he was supposed to, I guess, come in and pick him up, and Trent just looked and he went right by him. And then you see Trent Williams start raising his hands. And I mean, listen, it's frustration. I don't think it's Trent Williams trying to shine. I think it's frustration because they know how good they could be, and they're not at that point yet.
How good they should be.
No, they know how good they can be. They do. These guys know they're pros. I mean, Trent Williams is potentially at one point the best left tackle in the game. But, I mean, yes, he missed a year and a half of football. I understand that. Maybe he's still getting his legs under him. That's understandable. But I will say this: the majority of the issues is communication. You see it on film. It's not like he's getting bull rushed and thrown around and freaking. I mean,
right? That's Mike on the other side. That's what's happening to him. He's getting bull rushed and pushed out of the pocket.
yeah. Well, that's a different story.
Well, I'm just saying, it's like, this is the whole offensive line. You look at the other side,
and the number one tell-all factor is with Trent Williams is what I said before about Bosa in training camp. And week 1, Chandler Jones had to go to the right side and line up against McGlinchey to get pressure.
right?
That tells you something. So maybe it's not Trent Williams talent-wise. It's just, they're not on the same page.
So if you're talking about communication, do you put that? Do you think that is Trent not knowing the changes that Kyle's made since Trent played in the system?
It could be because Tomlinson's been in this system longer. I mean, the base of the protections in Kyle's offense, you have like 2-jet, you have bingo, you have I don't remember the other ones, but 2-jet is their probably most predominant coverage protection call. So, Tomlinson could hear 2-jet, be like, okay, this is what I know. This boom, 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 and then if he's not on the same page as him, that's why the plays break down.
Now, I was just wondering if you thought it was Trent's knowledge of changes that Kyle may have made since he's played in there, or if it's Tomlinson knowing the system that they played in last year and having the communication style he had with Staley and not being able to have that communication style.
That could be it too.
Not gelling the same.
That could be it too.
Or maybe Staley just picked up where Tomlinson was missing, and now Trent's not doing that.
That could be another thing.
Look, we blasted Joe Staley last year for his play too.
Mm-hmm. Oh, definitely.
So it's like
I'm just wondering with the communication. That's why I asked the question.
Look, I understand where you're coming from, Brian, but I gotta 100% agree with Tony here. And communication is definitely an issue. I don't think it's vanilla or holding back play calls. I'm on record coming on here saying, why are you doing this or why are you doing that? But I'm also not an NFL head coach. And, the one in particular that I remember blasting is the 4th down. Like, you're in shotgun form. You're taking the ball from 1 yard to 6 yards. Like, to me, that just doesn't make sense. But I'm also not playing with a bunch of 15-year-olds where every yard you fight for is something that you fight for. So look, I don't think Kyle's holding back. I think if anything, if he is holding back, it's not him personally holding back. I think it's being held back because of communication issues or offensive line play, as in communication, talent, whatever it may be. Like I said earlier, man, there's not much that has changed on this offensive line. I'm not even going to say Trent Williams is a change on this offensive line because he knows the system. He's worked in the system before. Verbiage is different, things like that. Mike McGlinchey has been here. Ben Garland had played center before. Laken Tomlinson. So really the only position that has changed is Brunskill for me on this offensive line. So there's no reason communication should be an issue. There's no reason that the play should be an issue. And there's no reason that the play calling should be vanilla or just leaving, not finishing things. I think it's just lack of execution on all phases. Communication, talent that's not just playing up to their talent, and just not scoring points. So that's it.
So to answer the question that we were supposed to be answering was whether or not we think the 49ers and Kyle have been holding back his play calling for this stretch. And I'm actually going to say yes. I'm going to look at a couple of games from last year. The Washington game. I know it was only 9-0 and it was a mud bowl, but the play calling was super duper vanilla. I mean, it was a game that Shanahan was happy to put in Kendrick Bourne and Richie James. He wasn't worried about the offense being too complicated for Richie James to handle, right? The Browns game, I know that was a 31-3 win, but if you go back and look at the play calling, super duper vanilla, right? You look at the Falcons game. That was a game that we ended up losing 29-22 with that last second touchdown from Julio Jones, right? But we all saw that game and we were extremely frustrated watching. Why is he just holding back so much, right? That game like made us like pound on stuff. Like, what are you doing? The number 1 seed is on the line. We can lock it up. Like, we knew what was at stake there. We knew we were the superior team, and yet Shanahan just didn't show his cards. Now, if you look at the teams that we played following those 3 games I just named, right? The Browns game, the next week was the game against the Rams. The Washington game, the next week was against the Panthers. Hear me out. The Panthers had a top-ranked defense at the time, and they hadn't lost a game with their new quarterback, Kyle Allen. Okay? And then if you look at the Falcons game, the next week was the Rams. We have seen, or at least according to what I'm saying now, my little theory, we have seen Kyle Shanahan pull back the reins just a little bit on the aggressive play calling and showing his hands when he's coming up against another opponent. We've heard Kyle Shanahan say in preseason, if it works here, that's all they have to study. It's not likely to work week 1. So we do know that he thinks games ahead with his play calling and his tendencies. Is it possible? Yes. Do we know for sure? Absolutely not. But what do I think, Sean? Yes, I do think Kyle has been holding back for this stretch of games, and I think it could cost him. I think that he looked at the opponents that we were coming up against and thought that they were inferior. And I thought that he thought we could win these games without me putting all my cards on the table. Kyle was wrong. He probably needed to use some of those cards, maybe not all of them.
So what you're saying is they overlooked their whole first 4 games of the schedule?
No, because we won 2 of them. I think
what I'm saying, they went into the games with the mentality of just overlooking them and getting through these games instead of
the last 4. I don't think they overlooked the Cardinals. I just think they weren't ready for the Cardinals. I called the Cardinals loss months ago. I thought that the Cardinals were going to be the more prepared team because it was more backyard football than preparation. And we see the Cardinals taking a step back now, week after week. They're getting worse and worse, right? Like, it's not sustainable. That's what Cliff Kingsbury does. But I do think that those last 4 opponents, they thought that they could win those games. Look, they benched Jimmy Garoppolo with a 21-3 lead against the Jets. He was healthy enough to finish that game, Kyle said, but we had a lead that we were comfortable with. We took him out, and they took out Raheem Mostert. All right? I'm not saying that that these are world beater teams, but if this game was closer, I don't think that Shanahan makes that same decision. We heard him say last week that he wouldn't have benched Jimmy if the game was close. He would have let him play. And that it wasn't close, so I'm not going to leave him out there. All right? With the Giants, we handled the Giants easily with bad backup Nick Mullins. No Raheem Mostert. You know, did George Kittle even play in that game? Did Kittle play in that game against the Giants? That was week 3, right? Either way, my point is,
he didn't come back till
right.
Philadelphia.
So I don't think that Shanahan was worried about those teams. And then when the Eagles came in, they were also a bad team. And Wentz was playing at, don't forget this, a like career low 4-game streak or 3-game streak, whatever it was. It was the worst that Wentz had ever played. And he still had a bad game, by the way. He still had a bad game. They just made more plays than us when it's all said and done. I do think Shanahan overlooked these teams. And last week speaks for itself. This team looked absolutely defeated. We don't know why he played Jimmy. We don't know why he didn't start Akello. We don't know a bunch of things. That's telling me you overlooked this team. You didn't put your best product on the field for that game. I think he overlooked them, and I think the play calling reflects it also. It's just my thoughts. Just my thoughts. I think I'm the only one that said yes. And that doesn't mean I'm right. That probably means I'm wrong. So I'm okay with that. It's an opinion, you know. It's not about right or wrong. It's just an opinion. But I'm okay with people thinking I'm crazy. It's just how I look at it. And I looked at the games that I felt that way about last year and who the upcoming opponents were, and it makes sense. It makes sense, you know. All the running that he did in the postseason, heading into the Super Bowl, and then he threw a million times. We were like, "Why aren't you running the ball more in the Super Bowl?" right? He switches it up. What he's gonna do in the important game is what he avoids doing leading up to the important game. That's all. That's my little conspiracy.
Well,
I guess.
I do know one thing. The whole world who watches Sunday Night Football will know who this team is
Yes.
on Sunday night.
Mm-hmm.
If we're really the team that got beat by the Dolphins, the Eagles, and the bad teams.
Yeah.
Or if we're a team that's going to compete.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing we do know. And whether it's holdback, we'll be able to tell if there was different play calling or different execution but then again, I it's kind of hard to even see if you go back and look and say, well, they were holding back because they did something different this week. Because you look at defensive lines, you think of different plays. Like last week, we barely ran any end arounds, right? We barely ran anything. This week, maybe with a speed rush and a pass rush, we do more of that just to get guys the football. And it depends on how the ball is, the defense is lined up. But either way, all of us are going to know what type of team this is come Sunday night.
Good, Ryan, your final thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I'll continue to be the negative Nancy, the downtrodden, whatever you want to call it. But I'm just after this last showing, the week prior to that, the Dolphins played the Seahawks, right?
Played them really close.
Them pretty tight, right?
Yeah.
So if you're telling me that Kyle knows that the Seahawks, who we have problems with year in and year out because we're in division, had problems with the team, and we know how they play, and we didn't take that into consideration, we need a new coach because that's not going to work. I don't think that NFL coaches overlook teams. I think that there are some teams they look at as being a lesser or, maybe a rebuilding team or something that's not at the same competitive level, but I don't think they really overlook them. So I don't necessarily agree with you there, but I'll go with the same thing I've been saying. I just don't see us producing. And I think that you see probably a different game plan from McVay than you've seen the first 5 weeks, so that we see more take advantage more of our secondary, because we don't have the rush to make up for it. And so, I mean, going forward, I think that it's going to be a long road this season. And I know a lot of people don't want to hear that, but I think that's where we are.
If you real quick, Mike, before you go, if you look at that Seattle-Miami game and then you look at the Niners-Dolphins game, there's one thing in common. The Dolphins attacked their secondary in Seattle, and then they came and attacked the Niners secondary. I don't think Kyle Shanahan held back in play calling. I think that the play calling was okay if there was execution, but our secondary got torched. And that's how Seattle almost got beat by Miami. They were up and down the field. Russell Wilson, Ryan Fitzpatrick. Russell Wilson, Ryan Fitzpatrick. Back and forth against both secondaries. We benched our quarterback, couldn't get the ball out, and we just could not block up front. That's what the difference is in the game, mainly at the offensive line. So you're right, though, Brian. You got. Look, this offense has to kick in. If this offense doesn't kick in against this game, you heard Fred Warner the other day and a couple other players. That was an embarrassment. They were pissed off. That's an embarrassment. Well, don't go out there and get embarrassed again.
Exactly.
The top 2 questions today to every player and every coach that went on was from Jennifer Lee Chan. What is the locker room like? You guys were stuck through thick and thin when you were losing. You were a close-knit locker room the entire time. Is that locker room still the way it is right now? And Fred Warner answered and said, the locker room is probably tighter than ever. We know that we have to start winning and playing football. It's go time. That's basically what he was saying. Not word for word, but look, I told you, I think this team is missing one click. If the offense gets going, I think the defense starts playing better. And we're going to start getting healthier on defense.
Yeah. And before Tony goes here, I just want to point out something, that the Seahawks have one of the worst defenses in the league, and the Dolphins only put up 23 points on them. I think Shanahan felt that his defense would do a better job against this Dolphins team. I know people keep saying that this was a close game, but at halftime it was 17-9. Even after the third quarter was over, it was 17-12. And then Seattle ended up winning the game 31-23. It wasn't as close as people say it was. I think as Niner fans, we were just hoping, oh, you can do this, you can do this. So we say it was a close game. But we asked about Shanahan holding back, right? If you tell me I only have to score 24 points to beat this team and our defense is a little bit better than the 23 that they allowed, so I think we can probably win this game by putting up 20-21, then yeah, I do still think that he could hold back in the play calling. But we will never know the answer to that. I want to get Tony's opinion on all of it and your final thoughts, man.
I want to add one more thing, and specifically to Tony, because he has more experience in that area with coaching and whatnot than I do. But if we're okay, so when Williams gave that interview and basically didn't take ownership of his actions, as far as I'm concerned, everybody keeps blaming it on communication. If they are physical athletes able to do their job physically and understand the scheme, but can't communicate, how many weeks does it take them to talk to each other, to work that shit out? Because I've had a lot of people I've worked with and doing different things. Granted, it wasn't the NFL, but it doesn't take a month to work out communication between two people. Go through the playbook, sit down with your guard and tackle, and that offensive line should be working on that communication nonstop if that's the problem.
Yeah, I mean, you make a good point, but I mean, it's a little bit more complex when you're facing different fronts, overloads to your one side. Because believe me, if you don't think other teams look at this film and see them two struggling and they're overloading their side, you got another thing coming, because it's going on. And you saw versus the Dolphins where they stacked that side of the line of scrimmage. There was a linebacker on the inside with a defensive tackle on the outside shoulder of Tomlinson, and then there was a defensive end, and they would walk a safety up sometimes. So you're putting four men literally in the two-man window, and they're dropping two, but you don't know what two they're dropping, obviously. So at the snap, pre-snap, they're like, all right, I got, first guy inside, you got first guy outside, all that. The snap of the ball, and then the guys that they think they have go. They drop back, and then now the other two rush. And if you don't have the ability to snap on the dime and make that adjustment, that's how you get beat. So, I mean, should they be able to do it and pick it up a little bit more faster than what is going on? Yes, they should. But, I mean, I don't know what it is, man. It's very confusing. It's mind-boggling. But as far as my closing thoughts, do I think the offense could get into a rhythm? Yes, absolutely. But what got this team to the playoffs, and besides the offense, as far as the defensive side of the ball, they had one hell of a defensive line. This defense was made from the front and back. You're missing your top two pass rushers. And I don't care. Yeah, but you're going to get Sherman back eventually, we hope. But to be honest with you, I think Verrett's playing pretty damn well. We're getting Mosley back, so that kind of solidifies the back end. And now hopefully that improves the play of the safeties. But you're still not getting that rush. And until they produce a rush or generate a rush from using blitzes, you're going to expose the back end of that secondary. This is the way they created this defense. Let's invest up front. We fill in the back. And by doing it this way because of injury, you're exposing the back end. But we can only hope for the best. I mean, listen, they can come out and beat the Rams this week for all I know. But I'm going to tell you right now, if they get blown out and smoked, it's potentially could be a very long season.
Tony, you missed one thing in there that I wanted to say while you were talking about that. You heard Mike McGlinchey come out today and say, there's been a lot of times where we're seeing stuff that we haven't seen on tape. They did something different.
These defensive corners are playing the 49ers totally different. When it's rundowns and early in the game and it's 0-0, they're telling their defensive ends to shoot upfield. And what does that do? That prevents the running back from getting to the outside zone. It makes it harder for the tackle to reach, block, and hook or push him out because he's shooting right up the field. I'll stop talking because Mike's getting mad.
No. Keep going, please. Explain it. Because for the last 2 or 3 weeks, I've been saying that defensive lines are playing the offensive line very differently.
They're attacking their gaps. They're putting pressure on these guys. They know there's been changes on this offensive line, and they're putting pressure. Just like what I just said, the 4-man over that left side of that offensive line, that is applying pressure. They're doing it. They're putting gaps. They're guys in gaps between McGlinchey and Brunskill. They're putting guys between Garland and Brunskill. Then they're shooting or they're doing a stunt like the one like I watched the other show that you guys did with the breakdown. I think Nick, you said it where Brunskill. You said Brunskill pushed his man into Garland. No, Brunskill didn't do that. That was the defensive tackle's job to take Brunskill and make him go across so the other guy can loop around.
Right.
So this is what you're seeing. They know, these defensive coordinators know that right now this offensive line's in flux. I mean, granted, the majority of them are starting returners, but they know that they're having issues. So what do? Yeah, we'll show this week, and then we'll flip the script next week because they see this week and they're preparing for this, and then all of a sudden you have a different look. And that's what's the problem with this. Besides the communication, the ability to adjust on the fly. This team cannot do it because I don't know why, the communication, or I don't know. I really don't know. But
a lot more stunts too. A ton of more
they're
stunts.
facing a lot more different looks. And I think it's getting under their skin, and they're becoming very frustrated, and you're seeing it. You're seeing these guys get mad. But as far as McGlinchey, I mean, there's been some plays where he looked decent, and he looks really good in some plays where his run block, and he gets out like that one screen or the dump off where they did, and Trent Williams was flying down the field. He was the first man down the field leading. But then you get the plays where McGlinchey just gets walked back into a quarterback. That can't go on. Like I think McGlinchey looks in phenomenal shape, but guess what? He said he only lost 5 pounds. I think he lost probably 15, 20 pounds because he cannot anchor a defensive end. I don't know what it is. And I'm not knocking him. I think he does have a talent. He is an excellent run blocker, but something is just not right. And, until they get it, until they make their adjustments, I think they're going to have to make audibles on the offensive line. Never mind the play calling, where if they get a different look, they got to call an audible on their Garland's got to call an audible to shift the protection.
I'm glad you explained the offensive woes because it's something that I've been trying to explain it. I'm like, even on the interior, they're playing the gaps different. Like I've been saying it for weeks. You just broke it down. So hopefully people understand.
See, someone just said in the chat, that's coaching. Well, coaching is only what you see on film, and you prepare your men for what you see. Now, if a defensive coordinator switches that, how is that coaching?
Right. So here, and this is what people aren't understanding, right? 90% of the time, a defense reacts to what the offenses do. Mm. These defenses that are playing the Niners right now, and particularly in the trenches, are saying, we don't care what they do. Let's mess up what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
This guy wants to run this way and block you out. Just run across his face. Stay close to him so that he turns and tries to grab you and bring you back this way.
Now, perfect example is what I told you with the Philly game. Remember when you saw Trent Williams pull and he got blown up all the way into the back and knocked into Jerick McKinnon? Mm-hmm. That's not Trent Williams' fault. That's the defensive coordinator saying, if you see them pulling, get to that spot before they get to there and you blow them up. Don't worry about the ball carrier because everyone else is going to fly to the ball. Your main objective is take care of the lead blockers. Get them off their rhythm. Don't let them get their feet under him. Don't let them hook. Don't let them get squared to the next defensive player so they can block him. Just hit him. Yep. And that's what's going on.
Yep, exactly.
That's going to be interesting. Maybe they go to a more power scheme.
Yeah. See, are you going to be around Saturday?
No, I'm working 16 hours.
Jerk. All right, send me all your bullet points. I'll use them as my thoughts, okay? All right. Listen, guys, my final thoughts are going to be very similar to what I said at the very top of the show. I said that the team is going to show their true colors this week. Win or lose, we're going to ride and die with this offense right now. The defense is doing all they can to keep this team in games, okay? It's time for the offense to wake up. There's no more keeping it close to the chest or close to the vest. I don't know what the exact expression is, but you can't do that anymore. We have to show dominance. We have to go out here and show the will. We have to show fight. We have to show desire to win and work together. If this team comes out here again and they are flat and they just look defeated from the second drive forward, this team, the playoffs, all that is done. We can start talking about draft picks. And I don't want to do that going into week 7. I'm sorry, I don't. So I need this team to get it together. I'm trusting in Kyle Shanahan to show us why he's been holding back on play calling. I'm gonna ride with that. And that's going to do it for us here tonight, man. Those are our final thoughts. One more thing before we get out of here. Rest in peace to Hall of Fame player and 49er great Fred Dean, who lost his life with the battle to COVID-19, right? They said that was COVID for sure. Yeah. So last I heard, he was on a ventilator, and then they said that he passed. So rest in peace to Fred Dean. His family are in our prayers, and the 49ers organization and anyone else affected by that who feels that loss. So hats off to him. Thank you, Brian. I saw that. And that's going to do it for us tonight, man, guys. Thank you. Go ahead.
Also, just prayers to go out to the to Vaughn McClure from ESPN. Yeah, I know he covered the Falcons, but he also passed away today at the young age of 48. So, yeah, so I'm not sure what it was from, but, you know, prayers and thoughts to his family. That's what I was going to say. I was going to bring up the Fred Dean thing, so you got it.
Yeah. Good. Yeah, if we don't start the show with it, I definitely want that to be the last word. So that's going to do it for us here tonight, man. We will see you guys soon. By the way, we have a special announcement coming for you guys later on, so make sure your alerts are set, okay? It may not be a live video, just something that pops up on your feed, okay? But that's going to do it for us here tonight. Thank you guys for rocking out with us over 2 solid hours. Very, very good show, guys. I like the flow of this one tonight. So that's that. We're out of here. Prepare for glory.
Anticipate pain.
But always
remain faithful.
We out of here. Peace.